Okay, a couple of people have asked me to go over the lab for week number 8. So let's go into NetBeans and take a look. The goal here is to store the months of the year in an array that can hold string data types. Ask the user to enter a number between 1 and 12. Check the user has entered a valid number. If not, they should re-enter their number and then display the month to the screen. So, and here's sort of an example output is here. So we enter a month. Eventually we get to 12. 12 represents. Okay. So to do that, let's go into NetBeans. And say a new Java class. And let's call this month array. Okay, so we go in, and the first thing it says here is it should store the months of the year in an array that can hold strings. So my data type is a string. I put the square brackets to show that it's an array. And let's just call it months, because the name of your variable should always match the contents of it, right? So this is the months of the year, so we'll call it months. And I'm just going to initialize it with January. October. Okay, so again, so my data type is a string array. That's what the square brackets represent. The name I've given it is months because that's a good name. It represents the type of data that's in it. And then I've initialized it with these initial values. So January, February, March, April, May, June. So as you can see, this is like 12 strings altogether. I can access each one of these individually by just looking at their position. So this here would be position 0. Remember, computers start counting at 0. So the very first position is 0. The second one is 1, then 2, etc. So I can access each of these things individually. So that's our first requirement checked off. It says ask the user to enter a number between 1 and 12 to see what month it represents. So let's ask the user here. So system.out to print enter month number 112. I'll return the month name. And in order to get the information from the keyboard, we're going to need to use a scanner object. So I'm going to go ahead and add a scanner here, call it keyboard. Add our import here. And then I'm going to say string month is equal to keyboard dot. And here's all the possible strings that we have available to us. So I'm going to choose next line. Okay, so keyboard.next line. All right. It says check the user has entered a valid month number. If not, they should re-enter the number. So whenever I see that, I think to myself, I should probably set up some kind of a loop, right? So while it's invalid, keep going. So let's put this into a do while So I haven't defined this method yet, invalid month, but we're going to print to the screen, and we'll do we'll collect the feedback from the user in this variable called string. So let's create that method now. So we want to evaluate to true or false, because the while loop or if statements or any of these things need they need to evaluate to either true or false. So here I'm going to use a Boolean. It's a public Boolean, and we called it invalid month, and it's going to receive an integer. And it's going to have to be static as well. Okay. Int. Okay, so if month num is, so if it's greater than 12, or if month num is less than 1, return true. Okay, so it's invalid if it's bigger than 12 or less than 1. If it's between 1 and 12, then it's valid, and we should return false, right? So the way to look at this, if it's an invalid month, keep doing this while it's an invalid month. Now that's, for some reason, not seeing these as the same, so let's just copy and paste one over the other. What's going on here? Oh, you know what it is? See, because the do while loop, although it's always going to execute what's in here, I think the do and the while are actually looking for this input. So I'm just going to put this up here so that I've declared user input before I start the do while loop. And that seems to take away that problem. So here we've got our validation. Here we've got our loop. And then it says check, then display the month to the screen, month name to the screen. So once we know that we have a valid month name, all we're going to do is say system.out.print, and it says, so let's use printf. So remember, when you have a formatted print, okay, printf means it's formatted. These are placeholders. You can almost think of them as like fill in the blank type of statements inside of our sentence. So here, %d means I'm looking for digits, right? So I'm going to put in a decimal argument. So here I'm going to use whatever information the user gave us, and then we already have the months of the year defined in an array. So all that I need to do is access the appropriate position in the array. Now, the array, really, it's going to count from 0 to 11, okay? And the users have given us information that's 1 to 12. So I'm going to take whatever information the user gave us, and I'm going to subtract 1. So I can just say months at the position of user input minus 1. So let's give this a run. Please enter month number 1 to 12 and return. So let's check our validation. It doesn't give me any useful errors, but it works. So let's add a little bit of feedback to our user here. So if it's invalid, so what's nice about putting this as a separate method is, although this is obviously very simple logic, what if this was really complex? What if there was a lot of things to validate? If it was a date that was in an acceptable range or something else? Here, it's nice and abstracted away, and I can reuse this method in several spots. Okay, so let's put in so it says 44 is not a valid month number. Please enter a month number 1 to 12. Okay, so it looks like this works. And I can keep putting in bogus ones, it'll keep doing it. It's going to do it while it's invalid. So if we put in a valid month like 5, it says 5 represents the month of May, right? And if we look, that's because it's going to substitute in 5, right? The user input was 5, represents the month, and then it goes to this array in position 4, right? User input minus 1. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So if I go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And that's what we got printed to the screen was May. So I hope that explains Lab 8 for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.